Okay. Good morning, all. It's 9 o'clock, 9:01 to be precise. We do have a quorum, so I'd like to call to order the June 3rd Sunset Beach Planning Board meeting. With that, let us recite the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yay.
Oh, still fell off.
Good morning. I would like to recommend that we make a change in our agenda, that we move item 5, new business, to town hall parking lot ahead of old business. Do I have a second to that recommendation, that motion? Oh,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Public comments? Dustin?
There's nobody in the other room.
No, okay. Alrighty. Then, under new business, we have a proposal for a parking lot expansion.
How many trees are being removed?
A whole bunch. Probably 100.
Is there a tree survey?
The
Heritage tree?
Yes.
the drawing, or the plan that we have, seemed to be missing a good deal. I would have liked to have seen many, many references to see detail on this, and there is no detail, but certainly I'd like to learn more about the fence and some of those things that are noted here.
We were only given sheet C101.
Is there more sheets?
No, I only had C101 printed out big, and I can run and get them if I need to.
It's like we're accommodating 82 spaces here. At least part of it's going to be fenced in, although I'm not totally clear what portion. We have a sidewalk that I believe connects our existing sidewalk. Obviously, we have a connection to the existing parking lot on the police department side of the building. Question I had was interconnectivity with the Carolina Dreams property next door, where there are currently parking lots. I assume there's not a requirement that there be interconnectivity there to an existing.
There is.
There is a requirement, even
Yes.
though that building preceded the.
Yes. So if you see on the east side of the parking lot, you'll see that where it stubs out to our property line in the top right-hand corner.
It just wasn't clear. It didn't show deleting the 2 parking or 3 parking spaces in Carolina
so
Dreams. It would interfere with that.
Yeah, we do have a requirement. So if Carolina Dreams ever came back and redid anything with their parking lot, they would be made to connect there.
So we just stub in. So
Correct.
we do just here to our property line.
Correct.
Okay. Anybody have other comments?
Yes, Tom, thank you. Along the south side of the parking lot, there appears to be about a 10-foot, might be wider than that, buffer area, but it's not showing, it's 15 foot, but it's not showing what, no, it's more than that, it's 20 foot. But it's not showing anything going in the buffer zone. There's a solid line there, which I assume is delineating the property line. But there's homes behind there. Some have chain link fences. Some have just some scrub bush. Do we have any plans, or does it show in the other drawings more of a landscaping buffer, of a berm, of plantings, of anything like that.
Yeah, and this is totally on me, obviously, so y'all can yell at me for this one. I can pass this around. I have a couple more in here. I just totally drew a blank about giving you the extra sheet with the landscape. I did review it in my staff comments, which you do have.
Yes.
They are satisfactory to that. As far as the curb and bumpers, the separation from the landscape along the right-of-way meets the overlay district requirements as well. Also, the buffering standards to residential areas and side going up toward the medical tenant space toward Walgreens that way.
This obviously is an important municipal project. It's something we sorely need. All of McLeod, or Carolina Dreams owns the McLeod building, but all of the McLeod building, so people know where we're talking about, that parking lot, it seems to drain, the gradient seems to go into that 10, 12-foot wide strip between our property line and the edge of their pavement. That seems to be the low spot, and then from there it tends to drain out to Sunset Boulevard, where there's a catch basin. And the catch basin looks like some work needs to be done to it, but it is a gradient to carry the water out towards the street. Part of our property line goes into that area where the water flows to now. In other words, our property line is not at the top of the elevation or the top of the berm in the wooded area. It goes out probably another 8 or 9 feet into that, call it a swale area. I was very interested in the contours that we were going to provide to continue the flow of water out to the catch basin. Because if we just put, I don't know what the grade is of our parking lot because there's no contour lines here at all.
Right.
And it looks like there's no stormwater work other than surface water that's to be done here. There's
So-
no catch basins or underground utilities that are for stormwater that's being added. Am I correct?
So I can defer to Dustin if he wants to talk more on that. I do know that the state stormwater permit for the town of Sunset Beach had to be upgraded for this, and that has been done. The combination of properties will be taken care of as well. Also, there are, I think, a couple rain garden projects that will exist
Yeah, I saw one there,
around
yes.
this property that will take care of that as well. But I could defer to Dustin on how that stormwater is going to flow from where Sunset Beach is now to on that property and the parking lot that's being created.
It doesn't look like any of the water gradient from the parking lot will go to the rain garden. It looks like it's just the 2 downspouts from the roof of the existing town hall and police facility that would go to the rain garden, because there's curb and gutter that would separate the parking lot, and the only way it can go would be out the 24-foot wide entrance and then out into our parking lot here and then out into the street.
So the way it's going to be designed is that there's going to be catch basins in the middle of the parking lot. So basically the water is going to filter to the center of the parking lot and goes out through the stormwater pipes
Underground.
to the catch basin that is in front of the vacant lot there now. They're going to tie into each other.
There's 2 out there, one at the east end, one at the west end.
Yeah, we're going to concentrate on the one in the middle, and maybe we might have to hit the one on the other end that's on next to the property line. We'll have to look at that, but right now it's designed to go to the one in the middle and tie into that one for the water. The driveway coming in to the parking lot,
There's 3.
that would be sloped, so it will run towards the rain garden being proposed out front. So that will be sloped to go to take care of that.
So all this is the catch basins here, like near that 24, near that number 7,
Yeah, it's
between
over
the
in the middle.
sevens.
Yeah, in the middle.
So it's all sloped like a shower drain to the center?
Yes, maybe slope like that towards the center. So the
Including
water-
that driveway you're saying?
Now the
from-
driveway will be sort of sloped back the other way.
So there's like some of it goes,
Yeah.
the continental divide is like the property line?
Yeah,
So
basically.
anything left of that, it's flowing back to the left.
Right.
Anything to the right of it is going towards the center?
Yes.
It appears there is not public access to the, I'll call it employee parking lot, I'll call it police parking lot. It's all fenced in with an
Yes.
automatic gate, not an automatic gate, but a mechanical gate.
Yes.
That the police will have to come in through this parking lot, and then the mechanical gate would open and they'll go in and park.
Correct.
The reverse coming out. But people cannot get into that area, the public.
Correct. It will be fenced off.
Okay, and there are 3 gates that the police could use or employees could use to get into the parking lot on foot if
Yes.
they needed to.
Yeah, they'll be able to go out front, around back, go out through, if they park in the parking lot, they can go out through that way without having to go through the gate.
Okay.
But you also see there's a sidewalk connecting the parking lot to the sidewalk we have here now in
Yes.
front of the town hall
Yes.
that will run in front of the police department that will tie into that.
Is there a detail on the other drawings that we haven't been given yet? Okay.
I did give you,
Okay.
yeah.
That show the type of fence
Oh,
or the gate type, or I'm looking at aesthetics because there's people that are going to look at that.
It would be
In their
black or silver. It'd be one of them. It'd be iron.
Chain link?
Iron.
Okay.
Will be an iron fence.
Probably like an aluminized.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a secured
Fence.
police area.
Yes, and
There won't be
it needs to be.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry we didn't get this. It would have,
Yeah, here's the
wouldn't have probably had any
landscaping.
questions.
Um,
There are several heritage trees that are in that lot now, and pretty mature. And I didn't know, I don't want to take the time to look at that detail now, but some of the islands, the landscaping islands in the parking lot, were they positioned to maybe try to save some of those heritage trees?
Yes.
Boom. I mean, most of them are pine.
Right.
90% of the trees in there are pine, but it's, and there's no additional lighting that's put in, or is that again on another detail?
That's on the detail. There is lighting that goes basically. It will be also in the center, on these corners of the property, and some in the center. There'll be one in the center also to lighten up the whole parking lot. We had Clayton with a BMC to draw it up for us.
Okay.
The lighting up day and night, I mean,
Yeah.
regardless of usage or.
Yep. We just parking lot ordinance. Yes. Be nighttime.
no,
I mean, like all
Right.
night long.
not to diverge for a second, but everything, all of these that come up, everybody says they're working on a lighting plan with BEMC. Does we or the town know what they do, what their standards are, and we're okay with?
And Clayton,
Not in this particular project, but in, I think everyone we've had, at least the last bunch, they all say,
Yeah.
lighting plan is being worked on with BEMC, and that's what we'll comply. Do we know what
Yeah.
their standards are, what they do, and are we okay with all that?
Clayton was actually in my office from BEMC, Brunswick Electric Membership Corporation, on this project.
Well, I
Speaking-
mean, in general.
yeah,
Or do,
and speaking
or do
with-
we need them to come here to tell us what they
if-
do?
I can get on Clayton's schedule if that's what board would like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, not only you get, everyone that's come here, I think in
Correct.
the last number of development, they all have on the item that lighting plan is being developed with BEMC,
Yep.
and whatever they tell us to do, we're gonna do. And we
Yeah.
all go,
It
great.
kind
But
of is.
it occurred to me that we don't know what they require being done.
It's very similar to the conversation I had with Clayton.
The ordinance says that's all you have to do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
And Brunswick Electric was instrumental in helping us write that ordinance.
Right.
So
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
in concert with what Brunswick Electric.
Yes.
Yeah, it's an outside agency that we require them to give us, them to provide lighting projects for, or lighting plans for projects. I've talked to Clayton, I've met with Clayton, pretty comfortable with what he does. He's also a one-man show right now,
Yeah.
so backed up for months.
But I will tell you that it will not be black. They will be silver. That is their standards lights now. So if you go to Teaser Wells over there and look at their lights, that's what it's going to look like.
Remember when we did the Gateway Corridor project, we were interested in having, some very specific looks to the lighting. And basically what we heard is that we're going to get what is deemed to be their current standard. And those standards perhaps change over the years.
A lot
but,
of companies
we're not in
come.
the driver's seat on that.
No, a lot of companies come together and that's what they purchase from the companies. And EMC was part of that program with a lot more electric companies, and that's what they all go to now. That's their standard.
So, and when we talk about working with BMC, they're undoubtedly very much aware of where lights need to be placed. And I'm, maybe again thinking of subdivisions.
Yes.
And I would think they would be in the driver's seat as to where things should be positioned. And
Yeah, when
we have
we
standards about height and things like that, not heights, but
yeah, 'cause when we done the lighting plan, this lighting plan that we got comes straight from him. We had him to do the lighting plan for
So he
us.
determines how many, the
Yes.
lumens.
The lumen, he knows everything
Right.
about it. He
Right.
programs it. He puts it in his computer with the program he's got, and he'll tell you exactly what
And
colors.
as they
and
change
what-
their rules, we inherit them. Because we
Yes.
don't really have a say.
No, it's just like the heads that are on the sodium lights that you see now, yellow. Or as they burn out, they go to LEDs.
Right.
Yes.
They don't go back with
On the
sodium.
island, every place. Yeah.
And they're using a single temperature for all their lighting?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a big difference between 2700K and 6000K.
They're using the standard. Yeah.
So all their lights are the same Kelvin,
yes.
because there's a big difference in look. Not in look, but also what I consider eye strain.
Right.
The higher decay, all the blue is tougher on eyes, but
Are there any thoughts on staff on regulating parking to my left here out this door? In other words, putting a sign there or something that says employee parking? Or will employees really just park wherever they park?
I guess it's still.
And during the day, the employees park back here. We do filter a couple to the front if we need to be. But the parking lot is designed to allow the public to park in that parking lot and access the building from the front, which has never happened before.
Right.
So we're not anticipating a lot back here like has happened in the past once the parking lot is constructed, because you'll be able to come through the front doors even at night.
Come through the police front door? as
the main
opposed to
entrance.
Cindy's front door?
Right. That is the main entrance now, and the building inspection door is only an exit-only door.
Okay. That's how people will attend a council meeting then?
Correct.
Okay. Will there be a sign at all? I hate signs. Is it anticipated to put a sign at the 24-foot entrance because there's only one entrance and exit into this new parking lot? Will there be a sign there that says visitor parking, general parking, something like that? I don't see a sign. But it's-
We can. We haven't really thought about any signage that would be needed, because it's a one-way in and one-way out. And if you're coming to a meeting, you're looking for a parking space, and that's obviously going to be a parking lot.
instead of over.
So we hope that works. And yes, we are not supposed to be parking in the public, private parking lot next door. They sort of frown upon that. So this is going to help to alleviate the parking that happens over there.
We've heard from them.
yeah.
Yes.
How wide is that driveway? It looks like it's less than the 24 coming in. Is that like only 20 foot?
It's 24.
20 foot.
20.
No, not the new one, the existing one, because it looks like, because you got to make a right turn in and a left. You make a right and a left. A right turn into the driveway from the street and a left turn into the parking lot. And someone leaving is making a right and a right.
Should be 20 foot.
Should that be wider? Does that need to be modified to allow enough room for two cars to pass and turn? I'm talking about this one.
Yeah, you're coming in the
existing one.
driveway.
I scale it to 25 feet.
Yeah, it's 20.
So it's exactly, it's the same, it looks a little smaller than this one.
Well, I'm looking at this side here, which is
Yeah, two
existing.
cars can go
Yeah, I'm
out.
talking about this throat here.
Oh, okay, out to the street.
Right. It looks narrower than the other one
That's 20,
because someone pulling in
23
this
foot it scales.
has got to go this way
Yeah,
and
yeah.
someone coming out is going that way. And if anyone's here, I just wonder, there's a bit of a choke point there. Does that should be considered to be widened up a bit?
There's room for two vehicles to
There's
go
enough
out.
room, you think, for,
Yeah.
Why is there only one entrance and exit?
Well, you had to decide because of DOT. DOT controls that, and that's a DOT road. And you got to be 40 foot from an intersection when you put a driveway in
Okay.
to a business. So with that is that pushed it down there.
Doesn't our gateway project limit the number of accesses on and off of Sunset Boulevard anyway?
Yeah, we try to use
We try to
shared
encourage
entrances. Yeah.
shared.
Mhm.
Well, Carolina Dreams has an exit right there, but they probably don't want us driving because they're going to lose a couple parking spots when we collaborate our eventual tie-in with them.
Well, we'll stop at the property line, like Chad said. We won't
For now.
For now. But if they ever decide to redo it, then they'll have to comply with what we have on the books and tie into ours.
Because they don't have a sidewalk up through there either,
Yeah.
I don't think, do they?
Correct.
They do. They got a winding one.
They do have a sidewalk?
Yes, they do.
Okay, I didn't see it, but
And we could send a letter to them, letting them know that we are developing a parking lot and ask if they would like to go ahead and connect. And do that now.
Okay.
I mean, we can do that.
Chad, you said there was some details in here that show the landscaping and the buffer
The
area.
last sheet,
Yes, sir.
L101.
Eventually, I would have gotten to it.
That's what I'm looking at right now.
All right, so there's trees.
See, retain.
So there's no barrier to people from their backyards here from just walking into the parking lot. Except the ones that have fences there already,
Correct.
and it's about half of them have fences
Right.
there already.
You can do the ordinance states you can do a combination of trees and or fencing, or you can just do trees.
Or a berm, or a,
Correct. If you can't just do a fence, to do fencing and,
okay.
but you don't have to do,
And we don't have to do anything between us and Carolina Dreams as far as
it's just
landscaping.
buffering it. Yep, landscaping, correct.
But I
And
mean,
we
it's-
will continue on this landscaping, this bush hedge will line the back of the property.
okay. I'd like the opportunity to go back and look at this, but I certainly don't want to hold up the
Yeah.
process. Is there a way that we can put an asterisk that we have a week to object or something? Progress is important. Time is important.
We are ready to go out for RFP for this construction to start.
I know.
But if we have to wait a week, we have to wait.
Well,
I'm okay to move forward with it personally,
Yeah,
but
it's definitely needed.
we can offer our suggestions at a later date if we come up with some.
And you can rest assured that we're well aware of our ordinances, and we have made sure that we are 100% in compliance with our own ordinances.
Any other comments or questions? If not, a motion to approve? A motion to approve it?
make a motion to approve the site plan layout prepared by the Town of Sunset Beach's engineer dated March 2021.
Second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Have
you.
a great day.
You as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dustin. Next item, under old business, tree protection ordinance amendment discussion. We've had discussions on this, I guess, the last couple of meetings, or
Yes.
last meeting, we agreed to pass to Chad individually some of the considerations that we'd like to have made in a revised amendment,
Yes.
which I hope everybody did. And
So.
I will let you deal with what you're proposing, or your proposal, Chad.
Yes, so I wanted to hear suggestions on under the proposal section of my staff report, where it gets, and I've attached the Article 10 of landscaping and buffering requirements with all the things that go into a development as far as stormwater, infrastructure, improvements, subdivision of lots, property. And reaching out to the Cape Fear Council of Governments, I've come up with discussions points that I wanted to talk about today. One of them would be that we talk about, I know a couple people around the area go inch by inch. So if you take out an X amount of inches of trees on a property, on a division, you have to put all of them back, 75% of them back, 50% of them back. So if you take out 1,000 inches of trees, you have to replace them with X amount of trees.
At a minimum
At a minimum.
caliber?
Yeah, yes, we can talk about that.
And it doesn't matter what kind of tree, just a tree.
I would say according to our tree replanting list that we do have in Appendix C, that has been approved by prior boards, and I'm assuming when the 2012 was drafted up, that ad hoc board that came up with that UDO, or the UDO committee to some degree came up with that Appendix C along with in the UDO.
As I look at 10.04A, I see it leaning more towards replacement standards, and I think that's the wrong place to start. I think where we need to start is preventing these trees from getting cut in the first place.
And that was the
We know that we can't replace a 24-inch
right.
heritage tree.
And that was one of the
What do
others
we
that-
do first to prevent those trees from getting cut in the first place?
The way the ordinance is written and potentially making changes that are enforceable, we are not the only town in this boat and the only town trying to figure out this equation of, can we just make you save every heritage tree or X amount of trees that are on there?
I mean, I agree with Tom. I mean, I put together a framework. I don't know if Tom's read it or I think I sent it to him. And the same thing I was trying to do is, and I did it with a scoring and a point system and not inches, is to value the saved trees higher than replanted trees. I guess, I don't know. I mean, I sent this in and I guess I don't know who's looked at it or not, or any comment on it, but that my intention on this point or scoring system was to, in giving 150% value to save trees was just that, to stop them from being cut down where possible and giving more value to a retained tree than a replanted tree, regardless of and I gave different values per size. So I don't know if anyone's looked at this and have any comment on it, but that was my attempt, is to, again, save trees. And then if you can't save it, obviously you can't save them all. You know, the house is going to be where the tree is.
Ron, can I make a comment and then turn it right back to you?
okay.
And the comment has to go to Chad. In our last meeting, we had the assignment of, and we all agreed to it, of putting together our thoughts, and we were given a limited time. I think it was 10 days.
Yeah.
And we did that with the idea that it would allow Chad, and maybe I misunderstood, the opportunity to dissect them and then send out a general thing to all of us. I would have loved to have read Ron's 150% placement. I may or may not agree, but I'd like to get those kind of thoughts in my head. And I don't know if he saw mine, but you know, I put in things that are, you don't cut a heritage tree down unless you get the UDO administrator to approve it. And there's certain ways it needs to be approved for infrastructure, for houses. Okay, I'll turn it back over to you, but I'm perplexed that I didn't get a chance to read your items first.
So maybe that's the first thing we should do, is all that were submitted gets distributed, that I don't know, we need to vote and authorize that that all the submitted ideas be distributed to all 5 members to review for the next meeting. Then I don't know, I mean, I know it seems like
Better
a slow,
starting place.
it seems like a slow step, and either
Yeah, that makes
we
sense.
choose one path, or you know, obviously we cobble together. I'm not sure how to do this, I guess. But yeah, well, I like to think I spent a considerable amount of time thinking about this and coming up with this formula and doing some test calculations to see if it would kind of work or not. But you know, I'm not
That was kind of
pre-
consistent with what we read in that Hilton Head code.
Yeah, and I
Where they reward you for saving trees.
right, and I
And
must
they
tell you,
punish you to a degree for taking them down.
I spent a week in Hilton Head in between meetings, and I would agree, they have a lot of big trees. Not sure I want to be there during a hurricane, but every property has a lot of big trees on it. So
Yeah.
their ordinance has worked to the point where there's a lot of big trees.
I'm not-
Obviously theirs, I looked at, was awful complicated. I was trying to come up with using this point and scoring system, a somewhat simpler way to administrate it, but not a lot of, you can and you can't, and there's a caveat and another caveat, and so, I don't know. But assuming that no one else has seen this, I guess.
I did,
It may be
concur with
garbage,
you.
or it may be a starting framework of how to do it. And I guess having maybe developers look at it too, if they get faced with a site like this and they have to do this scoring, can they make it work or not? But that I tried to figure out how many trees are in some of these spots, and some of this pointing is hard to do without actually going out there and doing the count. But it does require you to do the count. Now that may be the stickling point, is that the first rule here is that every development has to do a complete tree survey
Yeah.
and
I think
identify
that was where,
who's
my
staying
suggestion
and which
is
one's staying and which ones are going.
Yeah.
So maybe that's,
gotta
if we
broaden
don't, if we don't agree on that, then the rest of the plan is
Got
useless.
to broaden what we are given at the point of a preliminary plat approval.
Right.
What's out there? What are we planning on retaining? What are we planning on taking out? My suggestion was that we only approve removal of trees that are going to be interfering with putting in the infrastructure up front, and perhaps then go back as a second step and look at the trees that might have to come down for home construction. I would start with redefining what we call a heritage tree. If you look at our UDO, for the most part, we've got, I don't know, 19 trees or something listed, but they become heritage if they're 18 inches or greater. So that means we don't consider a 15-inch tree, for the most part, a heritage tree. Well, we know we can't replace a 15-inch tree, so
Right.
we should be trying to protect them.
Yeah, that's why I suggested we probably need to get some consultation with an arborist.
Yeah, right.
To tell us, what is a real worthwhile heritage tree? And I missed that size thing. I thought it was 12 inches for some reason, but I missed that 18-inch thing completely then. So yeah, should it be 12? Should it be 15? Should it be 18? Only a professional tree person, an arborist, I guess, would be the person to tell us what should be saved and why. Because obviously shouldn't impose requirements on developers and builders that don't make any
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
environmental sense. So this is an environmental sensible thing to do, is rate these trees as worthy of preservation at these dimensions or whatever. So yeah, I agree. One thing we got to do is fix the list.
I see now I don't have the background and all the knowledge that you guys do about all of these trees and everything, or building. But if you are developing an area and you're selling lots, then I can see where this applies. But if you're developing a community and you've got to put in all of the infrastructure for that, it's going to become hard. It's going to become hard to there are lots of heritage trees, and there again, it depends on which ones you determine are and the size and everything. But I can see how, I think it sounds good. I like your idea, but how is it going to work in the real world? How's it going to work with these developers who are, and we are obviously encouraging them, look at our area.
And that's been the thing I've struggled with over the past month with this, and that is my fault for not distributing the comments I got back from Ron, Pete, and Tom of how do we make this applicable? One of the suggestions, because you're right, when I get a tree survey, heritage tree survey, regular tree survey, and how they're carving out everything as far as infrastructure, is I can get justification from a developer on how every tree can be removed on the property. And the way our ordinance is written, it allows them to be put back on a tree by tree planting basis, or when you get down to the residential, the point system that I go out and issue a CO on each individual lot, 90% of them are well above the 36 point vegetation point requirement. The only time you really ever see it anywhere near 36 is on the beach, and that's where
You're talking residential.
residential,
Yeah, okay.
correct.
Yeah, but our 1-for-1, which is where we started this
Correct.
way back when, means you get rid of a 24-inch tree and
Correct.
you get a 2-inch tree.
Correct.
And
So
this is where we started saying, well,
so-
that doesn't make any sense.
So
now.
I might see by the end of my lifetime the replantings come back to an establishment. That's not a great thing. It's not a bad thing. So how do we prevent them from being completely taken out?
Well,
and
we
one of
put
the
the-
questions one of the comments that came to me was you could do this. You could make them put back to a specific inch, bigger than 2, 6. I think your
Impractical.
standard is 6 inches at breast height.
Impractical.
You could correct, and you could also, if a tree gets to a certain size, diameter, and age, you could make it in where they have to keep it no matter what, and design the development around that heritage tree.
I hate to do that because I think that can be somewhat impractical, but by saying that before you remove a heritage, let's start by saying what Tom focused on. Let's start from a protection standpoint. If you want to take a heritage tree down, and our definitions are very clear, I think our
Right.
definitions are weak when they say that any tree over 18 inches, a caliper, is considered a heritage tree. I think that's ridiculous because there's pine trees are
No,
certainly not.
I don't think it says that. Pete.
I'm reading it. Any
Yeah, if you
tree
look at
species included in
10.06,
Appendix C.
preservation of trees, and then you get down into B or C, permit for required heritage tree removal.
Let me make my point.
Sure.
If we start from saying you need to justify, and we'll define heritage trees appropriately, not maybe as generally as we have already, but give a better definition, a clearer definition as to what we really want to protect, and then say before you do it, the impetus is on the developer or the homeowner when they buy a vacant lot to justify taking that tree down. And I think we as the town and the UDO administrator should have the task of being reasonable. And if there's a tree in the middle of the lot and it's a 10,000 square foot lot, it's going to be impossible to build a residence in that lot. So that's a no-brainer. But if there is something they can do with the house to make it more reasonable, then we need to enforce that. The idea that the staff came up with here, that is a suggestion in number 1 in 1004A, 15 trees 2 inches shall be retained or planted per acre. That means in our MR3 area that there's 3.25 trees per lot. They could clear cut everything right now and plant 3.25 trees somewhere on that lot. And that I don't think is anything any of us want. Now, possibly I misinterpreted the heritage tree. As I read the definition, it said any tree in Appendix C that's 18 inches or more is a heritage tree.
From this list, though.
Okay.
Yeah, which doesn't include pines.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Includes quality trees.
All right. Well, maybe the definition is
But we need to,
appropriate.
yeah, I think, we need to review it to be sure.
Yeah, because right now, if you were to look at 6.04C 5, heritage trees permitted to be removed shall be replaced on a 1-to-1 basis with an approved tree. Replacement trees shall be planted at a minimum caliper of 2 inches at 4.5 feet above the ground.
it was that part
Yep.
that we got started on this
Yep.
back in
A year ago.
December 19th, 2019.
Yep.
You know, is where we started saying that that's ridiculous. You end up, say you get a lot that has a bunch of between 12 and 36-inch trees on, you take a dozen of them out, you replace them with a dozen 2-inch trees, there is nowhere near tree preservation being done, right? It's just checking the box on your list of things somebody has to do to develop a property.
Right.
From an engineering standpoint, they can handle this, okay? They have a full 3D topographical plan showing those trees in CAD as an underlay. When they start putting roads and houses and lots, and they can move those entities around, they can handle the engineering, maybe a little harder. Ain't that difficult, because they got to deal with it anyway for
Grading can be the
For
biggest
grading-
problem, though.
topography, other obstacles. That's part of their job. I don't really think the engineering difficulties we're going to give them is the issue. The issue is forcing them to save too many trees than it's practically possible to develop any piece of land, and then not making the thing so difficult that nobody can do anything. I see where you two guys are going, sort of. I'm a little skeptical on the prove to me why you got to take, because it's somewhat subjective, and you're forcing Chad and his team to make a series of judgment calls on individual trees.
My
Because-
thought was, we get that
Right.
preliminary plat, we outline on it where the infrastructure is
and,
going to
and
be.
leave them where
And,
the,
and I would think that we typically are going to give a green light to do that.
right. But
But I
to
agree
go
with-
to go in
but I see
and-
issues that
Yeah, it's
someone
it's
come in,
very
well,
subjective.
there's these trees here, but I got to do this here, and you're requiring them to say that's not reasonable, and I think it's too subjective, and then
Yes.
it is fraught with fights.
Yeah, but right now, they can go in with a blank
I know.
slate and do
We
it
know
the
we don't-
cheapest way they can with gradients.
again-
Yeah.
It's-
And again, I tried to do it more objectively with just points. An existing tree is worth more than a replacement tree, even of like size.
Okay, Ron, I have a
So
question.
when you add up the points, we don't care which one you
I'd love to
save.
see it. It's-
I could give it to you. I don't know if I'm allowed to.
I'll distribute it.
You're right. I mean, not, I don't say the math is exactly right here on what I did, but the point was that I don't care what you do, developer. The way say you do your survey and you got 2,000 points of trees on your property. When you're done, you still need 2,000 points of tree. That can be changed up or down.
Right.
And you get a lot more points for saving trees and less points for replacing. I don't care how you come up with getting your 2,000. You could save all 2,000 tree points worth of trees and build around it. Or if you have to take 1,000 out, you get 1,500. You get 150% for the ones you save. You got to only add 500 points back. So that left it up to the developer to figure out the way of doing it that fits their development. That's what I was trying to. And now for you guys, it's subjective. They give you a spreadsheet showing, here's all the trees, here's what we're taking out, add up the numbers, here's what we're putting back. Yep, it adds up to the original numbers. Obviously, some method for later, something may come up and they got to take one down, how to get approval for that. And it's not subjective. I'm always a little skeptical of convincing somebody you have to do it, like you just said. They'll come in with a reason for every tree to be gone. Now you got to say, no, that's not a good enough reason. So either in the code now, you got to write down what all the good reasons are, what all the bad reasons are, to not leave you guys in the spot for being called out later, either in a case or whatever,
Right.
that you did not fairly administrate it because developer A got approval because they had to put a electrical box where the tree was, and developer B didn't get approval and he wanted to put an electrical box where the tree was, right? Now you got conflicts.
Yes.
So I see that to being wrought with administrative nightmare. So I was trying to come up with a scoring or a point system that got us where we want to go
Yeah, and maybe I just
and take a lot of the subjectivity out of it.
yeah, and maybe I just
Maybe it's
hit,
not possible.
hit a writer's wall with trying to think about this of how to, because even with yours, they could still clear off every tree on the property and plant back. Now, granted, they would probably have to, let's say if it is 2,000, they have to put that
That's a lot
2,000
of,
trees.
right. And because I lowered the point value of the smaller trees and
It's
are
one.
less than keeping trees,
Right.
they wouldn't do that. I don't,
Right.
I'm trying to put my mind in the head of
Yes.
the engineer looking
Yeah.
at it. Is if I
And-
got a big swatch of big trees, say in the back of a property,
Yeah.
and that's like worth a bunch of points.
Yeah. And
I
my,
would design my property saving all that.
yeah, I hit a writer's wall where it comes, or just thinking, and just couldn't go any further with it,
Right.
with trying to figure out a way for it to be feasible for as many trees to be protected, or on the site to be preserved and protected as possible. And when you go into the thinking of it, I've racked my brain over and
Yeah.
over and over
But
again. And that's when I,
My approach, that's where I started. Worse, I started, but I said, well, to me, that's how I started. And I said, well, the only way to preserve trees is to give them more value.
Yep. To say, I would encourage
I
everybody to look
choose-
at that.
That makes
note.
I
sense.
choose,
It's exactly
I
what they've
put
done.
150% on a
Yeah.
1.5 factor. You can
Yeah.
make it a 200 factor. That's up for discussion, you know.
yeah. I mean,
I'll-
and you can also imply that into something like this, or the inch by inch. It's like if you remove 2,000 inches of trees and you got to put back 2,000 inches, you'd probably be better off to start saving some of those bigger inches.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, so
Well, we do have a bailout in quite a few of our ordinances that say, I'll read one here that I pulled out because of the parking lot that we were just talking about with the town. The UDO administrator may waive some of the required elements at his or at his or her discretion. You know, I agree with Ron. We want to take most of the subjectivity out of it, but we can never fully take it out.
Right.
And there will be reasons that are in the public interest for some reason. So I think those kind of clauses, but I agree with Ron. It needs to be the second option, not the first option, because I as I said that
And probably too, when you've got 2 or 3 big projects coming at one time, and you have to look at them, the subjectivity should be limited because it would be hard to handle it all.
Right.
well, is it
If you put I feel like I'm promoting my idea more, but my idea puts the onus on the developer and the engineer to tabulate, do the survey, present it to him.
Yeah.
That they've
Instead of
met the requirement, not to say, here's all, and here we're gonna sit down with you for a day and a half and tell you why we need to take out every tree. Until we wear you down enough to where you say yes. You know?
Is it allowable for you as the planning director to, when you get a project, to call on us unofficially, and we're officially, and give us the plan and say, what do you think of this? I'm talking in advance of a planning board meeting. We're not going to put a quorum together, but I'd be more than happy to sit down and say, hold it, I've done plot plans before. You don't need to do it. You could save this, you could do this, you could move this. I could give you some ideas, Ron, all of us individually.
My suggestion was all of this to be a part of the package we're given for preliminary plat approval.
To be able to
We're
make
going to see it.
yeah,
We're gonna see it
ultimately,
before we approve it.
ultimately it does come before you. My thing is that on every single one, let's say if it's not on this, let's say if it's somebody that owns a house right behind here, they want to come to me and apply for a clearing and grading permit, it's not required. The other thing I struggle with is that if I call Pete, if I call Ron, if I call Tom, Noel, Sybil, are we going to get, well, why didn't I get called? Type thing.
Well, that's not a long-term plan because.
Right.
you-
And then
We
the
need it
applicant,
written.
yeah, and I think the applicant would have was like, well, why did you call the planning board for their opinion on this? It's not
Well, that's
required.
why I'm asking you the question.
Yeah,
What-
I think.
what do you see administratively?
It has its advantages, but it also can get on a slippery slope pretty
But you're a
quickly.
one-man show.
Yes.
It's,
Yeah. And
Yeah. And that's why I was, and I'll distribute these. And that's another thing I struggle with is, I'll address it. An elephant for me in the room is that when you do send me stuff, do you want it in agenda packets? do you
Well,
want it out there?
I figure it's part of the, if I send it to you, it's public record.
Yeah.
I
I
write
cop-
these things such that they can be public. I don't have
Okay.
any,
I copied
I
Tom
I don't
because
have
he's
any
the chair.
problem with the
I
public
mean-
saying your idea is garbage or not.
Yeah, I was like, because I hesitate sometimes putting those in agenda packets because it's like, well, I don't want to put Ron's name on something and then all of a sudden, or Pete or Tom, and it's just something I'm 6 months in to the day, and I'm still learning,
Well, you
figuring
could-
out
We
this
could
this
decide
board
to
is
take the
what.
names off. You could say this came from the planning board.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
An
it's
official
just
planning.
having
I
a
don't,
feel out for
personally,
that.
I don't care if the name. I mean,
Okay.
I write it, and if I send it to Tom and you in the town, I'm assuming it's part of public record, and any citizen can see it. So
yeah.
that's
And it have speaking to other colleagues in the area, and knowing we're in that everybody else is trying to rack their brains on how to fix the same situation. It seems like a lot of problems, very little solutions to how to make it feasible is something that I'm also, it doesn't help with having the daunting task of trying to figure this out.
Well, time is of the essence, because if we wait another year, I
Well-
would venture to say there'll be very little undeveloped land that hasn't already been permitted
Right.
within our municipality. We need to get something in front of town council.
Yep.
And
So I have written down here, how can trees be saved? I'll distribute out the comments back. I'll do that today to everybody and provide comments back to me.
can we communicate, let's say I read something on Tom's or on Ron's, and I have a comment about it. Can that be, I don't want to say deliberated, but can I deliberate it, if it's Ron's, can I deliberate it directly with Ron?
Yes.
You can.
You
If
can.
you wanted
Okay.
to call.
Because
call
I want to
Ron.
say, what do you
You
mean
had a
about
question,
this?
yeah.
Yes.
Hey, what about
Yes.
this? And
One-on-one, you can do it.
One-on-one.
You can't go any broader than that.
because I think
Correct.
that's important. If we just send it out and then we wait for the next meeting to deliberate,
It has to be
it's-
done the old school way. Pete can call Ron,
Yeah.
and then Ron's like, well, what does everybody else think about that? Okay. Pete has to go and call Tom, Sybil, Noel. It cannot be put on.
we
Well, let me
understand
just
that
put everybody
closed
on a
meeting,
Zoom
yeah.
call.
Open meeting
Yeah.
laws.
So,
Well, I'd like to see it. Now, a point, because I think everybody agrees time's of the essence here.
Well, I
We
wanna
have
bring up-
developers that are standing in line out at that door.
right. And I want to bring up something else. And heritage tree, we called it a significant tree. Are we stuck to the heritage significant? It doesn't matter what we call it. We just want to make sure whatever we're defining it
I
at,
called
how
it
we're
a regulated heritage
regulated
tree.
heritage tree.
Regulated tree.
So we need to look at the definition to make
Yes.
sure whatever it is that we're trying to
Well,
save is.
maybe that's something you can do in the meantime, or somebody could
Specimen
do.
tree.
Can
Yeah,
we? Can
I've
we?
heard. I've actually had them called specimen trees. Before,
Can
so-
we, in the meantime, reach out and hire an arborist to come in and?
I have
And
worked.
if we contact someone now, we won't get them probably till a month or two from now to come in and talk to us.
At
Or
best, at best.
so maybe we should start reaching out to find an arborist to say, yes,
there's
I can come in
We
from the
might-
planning board, or
We might be able to reach out to one that would help us. Kate, could we let Katie speak for a second about, she has a contact. She has information about an arborist who might help us. Okay, tell the public, okay.
leave it at
I liked your email this morning, Katie.
And meanwhile, can we,
all I'm saying
there's
is,
trees we want to
all I'm
save,
saying
and then
is,
there's some trees
can
that
someone-
we absolutely
Right.
save. And
all I'm
can we
saying on the
come up with
arborist
a
is we should get
definition
started
of that?
now finding somebody.
Yeah.
Not wait till we
Right.
draft something and said, now look, so if somebody, I hate to Chad or Cindy or something, start finding an arborist.
What do you want them to cull out our list?
Well, I
Is that
think
what you mean?
one, and you need to review what is a regulated heritage specimen. It's just that,
That would grow here anyway.
yeah, what is one, first of all, that was worth saving? So, I mean, our definition, to at least work on the definition part.
We have a package that kicking around here somewhere from
Yeah,
the, what's it?
that was this
I
one?
don't know if I have it with me. Yeah, who created that?
That was,
the North Carolina.
I forget who did this one, and I started going through it, but it doesn't really define what what we say are the heritage trees. It's got them all in here, including the pines and the I didn't look at her list this morning close enough because I didn't get it to.
It was dealing with coastal Carolina trees.
Right, it tells you what's,
Yeah.
it tells you what is, native, what they are, how big they grow. But it
The
includes,
only,
it,
the only thing I'll ask with the arborist is that I've dealt with this in my past experience, and I've got a document by an arborist that wrote an ordinance to the point where it was unenforceable by staff because we couldn't understand it.
right,
Because an
I
arborist
know.
wants to,
Save
by
every
nature,
tree.
save every tree.
Well, no, not exactly that. It was just made it to the point where I was
I'm
not
saying is-
qualified to enforce how she wrote the ordinance.
the first step is to find someone to define what are the trees, in other words, the technical the definition
What trees
part.
to native to this area
Yeah,
needs to be.
which ones should be considered heritage or not,
Okay.
I would think we could
because
do
I don't
that.
think any,
Mr. Chairman, if it is the pleasure of the board for her to speak, she can do that at this moment. I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but
It's fine.
sure can.
It's recorded, so you have to come up to the microphone.
State your name and your address, if you would, please.
Hi,
Lady.
thank you for letting me speak. I'm Katie Hovermail. I live at 1429 Bay Street, Sunset Beach. And I have some information that might be helpful in this discussion, and that is your definition of heritage tree. They're heritage trees that are beautiful, but you might think about the value of the trees. And we talk about value of the trees. That is what they provide to wildlife, birds in particular. You have a lot of people that come to birdwatch in Sunset Beach. So there's lots of information that define which trees provide the most value to wildlife and the environment. For instance, the oak tree is probably considered one of the most valuable trees as far as birds are concerned, because they provide the habitat for the most species of butterflies and moths on which the birds feed. You know, birds can't feed seed to their young. They have to have insects. And so, and that oaks are listed on the Appendix C for the tree species, but it's right at the bottom of the list. So you might want to identify the most, eastern red cedar is another one, for instance. So think about the value that the tree provides plus the size of the tree. As far as an arborist is concerned, I personally think one of the most knowledgeable arborists here, and he's a certified arborist, is the guy Kevin Miller, and he owns Red Tail Tree Service here in Calabash, I think his office is. But he's a local arborist, Red Tail Tree Service. He was actually consulted when the town park was being developed to come out and look at the trees. Unfortunately, his advice was not taken, and some of our live oak trees were taken down that did not need to be taken down.
Was the reason because of disease or
They-
suspected?
yes,
or-
but live oak trees can be diseased and live forever. That's otherwise Brook Green Gardens wouldn't have their oak tree alley. still.
Katie, let me ask you a very specific question. We
Yes.
have a plan to have somebody come and do a survey of our entire park, and that's coming up very quickly. Are you aware of that?
No,
Okay, there was a thing that came out
and I apologize because I haven't been
well,
keeping up.
you aren't, this isn't a test.
Okay.
Thank you for coming. But there was a mention at town council meeting in open session about a plan that DPW had to bring in a professional, I don't know if it's an arborist or not, to do a complete survey of our park. And that was coming up. Have you heard of that before? It was coming up this summer.
Yeah, I remember reading that.
Okay,
gosh.
continue on then,
Well,
please.
I know him. He knows. It's unbelievable when you think about what he knows in this area. He knows all the trees and where the heritage trees are, if you want to use that term. But the big trees in Sea Trail, for instance, he says, "Oh, there's this oak tree they're getting ready to cut, and they have no idea what kind of damage they're going to do." But because those larger trees can't. It takes forever for them to get that large. Anyway, he was not hired to do the work in the park originally because in my humble opinion, the council at the time did not like what he was telling them.
Well, of course, if it interfered with the walkways and the gazebo and the pier, it's like, hold it, we want a park. Let's take this other person's opinion, who is also a professional, and let's better utilize the
Right.
resource.
But y'all know there's a difference between a landscaper and an arborist.
The
Yeah,
landscapers
landscaper.
cut grass.
Yeah. Anyway, and there are other arborists around too. I just recommend this person as someone to consult. And he likes to talk. So
We do too.
you have a lot of information in front of you as resources already. And I really applaud you all for the work that you're doing to try to save as much of our natural environment as you can. And it's a tough job. It's a tough job. Also knowing that you can write something in an ordinance, and then someone can come and ask for an amendment, an adjustment to that. My
text
husband
amendment.
serves on the Board of Adjustment, and if they, developers or builders can ask for an adjustment and change, if they follow the rules, change what it's done. So I really appreciate the amount of thought and effort you've been putting in this. And the other point, and I think you may already know this, is there is a difference between native and natural, and some trees provide more value than others. So if you could, anyway, do a point system on the type of species that are listed in your Appendix C, that might help. There are palm trees that are native, but they don't provide as much a benefit to the wildfowl as others. And then I also want to apologize for coming in late and disturbing your meeting.
You didn't.
Sorry about
We
that.
didn't notice.
The article that I sent to you, that you read at 4:36 this morning, Tom?
I read it at 5:30, so it's all right.
But sorry, that's just more information for you to use. And that email was given to me, and I forwarded it to you and kept the sender's name, Charlie Winterbauer, because he's very involved with the Native Plant Society in Wilmington and North Carolina, and used to be president of the Audubon Society. So if you ever wanted to email him and ask him for more,
Many
I
of
think
us have met
Tom's been,
Charlie. He
he's
was
been
involved
working
with
with
us
you.
when we first started working on the garden at the gazebo.
Katie, I did not get your email. Would you mind sending it to me? I'll give you my
yeah.
address.
Okay, yeah. What I did was I tried to copy from the email list on the town website, and it didn't copy properly, I guess. So I'll try again.
I'm
Sybil,
going,
sorry.
I didn't get that.
I'll try to get you right
That's okay.
email.
Thank
And
you.
you bring up a very good point too, because the thing that Tom provided with us, which I thought was awesome, the Hilton Head, South Carolina Land Management Ordinance that talks about really tree preservation. It's where they start. They have species and significant as two different definitions for trees that need to be protected. And I assume it gives different points because it has different diameters of each of those trees
Right.
as to whether it's going to be specimen or significant. And that's kind of where you're going, whether it's natural or what was the other word you used?
Native or natural.
Native.
So
And of course, the problem you run against is landscapers want something that's quick to put in and something that they can be hired back to trim. Like
Yes.
the Iliagnus, which landscapers call the moneymaker.
we love those
Which
plum
one?
trees.
In my opinion, the king of all trees is the live oak, because we have so few left here. So I would rate that as a very high quality tree. And, they take forever to grow. Do you
I
have any
love raking
questions for me? Is there anything else I might be able to research for you or help you with?
We appreciate
Yeah.
your comments, Katie.
Maybe.
Again, thank
Maybe.
you.
Stand by.
Okay.
We know where to find you.
We'll find you.
Okay. And
Thank you.
I'm so happy that I came, and I wish more residents in Sunset Beach would come and witness the effort that you're making now to preserve the land, the natural environment of our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Katie.
you, Katie.
All right, do we have a plan?
So my plan will be take the time to come back with, I'll send these comments out to you. I'll wait comments back from you, and then I will take the time to hopefully draft 1 or 2 ordinances to see how this will fit into our UDO and come bring it back to y'all within the next couple, if not next month, the following. As quick as possible, because like Mr. Larkin said, I think time is of the essence to get this to council.
What are we looking at for next month? Do you,
Wait, that's coming up.
Yeah.
Before we get off of this subject of trees,
Mhm.
Noel had shot over something to me about another bit of pending legislation at HB 496, which further restricts what a town is able to do in a way of tree related.
From what I can remember, if there is a bill that not only tree wise, but prevents the town from being a lot more restrictive in a lot of different areas.
Could we
Sounds like
see
Raleigh.
if we can get the town to draft a
That's already happened.
resolution?
Yeah,
They're
I
working
think
on
that's already
proposing it?
happened. They're
Okay.
getting a lot of,
Who's sponsoring that bill? Is it our?
I don't know.
Nobody's
local?
name is showing on
Yeah.
the document that
I know
have.
it's across the state, it's getting a lot of pushback. I see a lot of emails on that.
Well, developers are pushing for it.
and,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
municipalities are pushing back on it tremendously across the state. So,
Good.
Can we
Good to hear that.
send the message to council that we're concerned about it,
yeah, absolutely.
just as we look at trees as
Yeah.
an example?
Yep, I will forward that message along.
Okay. I think, are we finished with this subject?
Well,
If so, or no?
So the, make sure I understand, so the plan is everyone's gonna see everyone's comments, and then we can work it out individually, and then comment back to
Correct.
Chad,
Yep.
and then you'll create some summary of the,
I'll
that?
I'll try to start putting together an ordinance to bring back to y'all that addresses not only your comments, what you've laid out, but also today's and last month's meeting as well.
At the next meeting.
Try to, yes.
Tom, do you want to address anything about a future meeting?
Yeah, at the next July's meeting, we already have 2 members that are not going to be attending.
Okay.
Our meeting is on July 1st.
July 1st,
And
yes.
the question was, could we push that out a couple of weeks perhaps?
I can look into that. Yes, I'll see what parameters. I'll go talk to Lisa about that today and provide feedback to y'all. With 2 members, you said 2 or 3 members won't be present. 2.
Right now, we know 2.
Okay, technically, we would still have a quorum.
So we would have a quorum.
We
yeah.
would have a
But I
quorum.
guess the question is, what do you anticipate is going to be coming before us in July?
Potentially, so the pending projects I have out there are Jaguar's Lair, Phase 2D through 8.
That's what a final plat,
To 1,034 lots on a preliminary plat.
preliminary.
Pelican Reserve, I think it's 124-ish lots in Sea Trail. Sawmill Phase 1 and 3, which is a town home multifamily project. Trying to think what else I have on my board.
Is there anything coming in on Birdwatch? I know the preliminary's already gone
So
through.
Birdwatch has preliminary plat. They are starting to look forward to go through installing infrastructure and preparing land for final plat. So I have spoken to.
But you wouldn't expect that in the next month, the final plat.
I spoke with a member of Riptide early last week. Maybe within the next couple months, we could probably.
Did you see
Expect
their
that.
marketing thing that
No.
just came out yesterday? It's
So,
interesting.
so we do have that. A potential text amendment for addressing swimming pools that could be coming down the line. Meeting with a gentleman next week. Trying to think what else.
well, I guess in my mind, we should reschedule the 1st to the 15th, and
If
then,
we can, yeah.
and then keep the August 1st meeting.
Okay.
Just push the one, and maybe the developers get to wait 2 weeks.
All right.
Because I think we need we could have achieved, I think, of a lot of what we wanted for density and stuff by addressing this tree issue earlier, because it really does affect that too, on how they use the land that's available to them. So this being pushed, like say, we say time is of the essence on that, but we've been at this for a year and a half or whatever the hell it's been now.
Well, COVID chopped our legs, but,
Okay.
All right.
well, I'm not, that was before my time, so I'm not going to try to
So-
editorialize that.
Yeah, I'll have to talk to.
So right now, in my
Lisa
mind,
and all
I'll block out the 15th and leave the August 1st meeting in or whatever it is blocked out.
Do you see a conflict?
No, hold on.
Excuse me?
I want to confirm that with
But can we
Lisa real
vote,
quick.
can we vote to push it to the 15th?
If
Isn't
y'all
it a
wish to handle that,
Isn't it a postponement?
hold on just a second.
'Cause that's all we're saying really to do is push the July 1st meeting to the second date and keep the rest of them as is. Well, okay.
Is there a conflict for anybody?
I personally don't know if I have one. I know I would on this second Thursday of the month, but I don't know that I have anything on the third Thursday.
What about you guys?
No, I'm good.
I looked.
Yeah, I'm good for the 15th. Hi, guys.
We
Yeah.
missed you.
I have the clerk here. She's going to address how to properly do that, if it's feasible or not.
Can we
mic
move
on.
the,
Tom?
Question was, we know right now that we're going to have at least two members of the group unable to attend our July 1st meeting. The question was, could we decide to move the July 1st scheduled meeting to July 15th? I guess would be moving it out 2 weeks.
Sure. All you'll need to do with that, is this on?
No.
On. Okay. What you'll need to do is to schedule a special meeting for that date and cancel the
July 1st
actual
meeting.
date
Okay.
that you have. You just need to make a simple motion to
If it's-
cancel that scheduled meeting and to hold a special meeting in its place.
We can't just postpone the original meeting, because if it's a special meeting, don't we have to, well, I guess we'd print an agenda. It would limit the topics if it's a special meeting, wouldn't it?
But isn't the date we're changing it to one that originally was scheduled the first and third Thursdays of the month? So why is that a special meeting?
Because the calendar that is posted and was advertised does not include that second date
Okay.
anymore.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Okay, then, so I make a motion that we cancel our July 1st, 2021 meeting and hold instead a specially called meeting for July 15th, 2021.
Before,
Do we have to-
after
do
the
we have-
second, we can have discussion, right?
Don't we have to designate the topic, though, if it's a special meeting?
That's my question. Am I limited to what I can put on that agenda?
You can say that the topics will be what is normally on a planning board agenda.
Okay.
Okay.
It's just that the meeting is being delayed.
Okay.
I move that we cancel the July 1st meeting and have a special meeting on July I just had it,
15th.
15th?
5th. Oh, that's
15th
August.
at 9
Okay,
a.m.
15th, excuse me.
At 9 a.m.
I'm sorry,
9 a.m.
at 9 a.m.
To cover items that normally would be on a planning board agenda.
Exactly.
Correct.
Thank you.
You're so welcome.
Do we have to have a
I
second?
second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Have a great day.
Thank
Wow.
you.
You're not an arborist by any chance, are you? If you did a good job right there. So that's-
Anything on task 3?
Nothing yet.
I made a suggestion, I guess a week or so ago, that we create a task force as part of this whole review or attempt to manage growth in the town. And what I suggested was that we go back and take a look at two specific sections of the 2017 land use plan and to refresh them. I think it was chapter 3, if I remember correctly, deals with our community, population, number of residential properties, number of properties that are leased, anticipated foot traffic, people coming in, all those kinds of things. And then chapter 6 looks at the facilities that are required in order to support our population: water, wastewater, roads, and so on and so forth. When we did the 2017 land use plan, most of this information was created in 2016 using data from 2010 to 2015. At that point, we had relatively light growth in our town, and Brunswick County was also fairly soft. So basically, the projections that we put in assume that Brunswick County was going to continue to grow at the same rate that it had from 2010 to 2015, and that Sunset Beach was going to remain a consistent percentage of that county growth. Well, we know that is the furthest thing from the truth now. I think Brunswick County has the fastest growth of any county in the state at this point in time, and clearly our town is growing. So my suggestion was we go back and just refresh those two sections of the land use plan and use it as a barometer as to where we think we're going to be 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and maybe have a better sense as to what additional needs are going to be facing us that we're not addressing. I mean, certainly the first one's always comes back to the island and island parking. We just had the county approve a couple 2,300 units or something like that. Right down the road. Well, where do we think those people are going to be going on Saturdays? I have an idea where.
How come the town just doesn't make those islands one-way streets?
So at any
You can
rate,
park on there.
it's another
If it's simple, you just do it
future agenda item, but I think it's one that perhaps council might want to embrace.
Tom, what would you think would be the needed input to be able to take that step? We need a traffic study, I would think, of some major intersections to compare, because a lot of that's based upon flow of traffic. Mm-hmm. And census has come out.
Census information, I think we'd have to, be taking a second look at, the occupation of our houses. We can certainly project how many homes are here, but how many are residents, how many are rental properties. I mean, longer term, going to have some information or are we going to have a water supply to satisfy that? And I think we all got warnings that Memorial Day weekend was going to result in some water pressure problems. And
What I can do is draft something up to present to council to see if they would be on board with this, because I imagine there might be a cost side of this.
We would need a consultant, I think, to
somebody like
shepherd this.
McKim & Creed to potentially come in and analyze. And that
Does
would cost-
COG do that?
No, I can talk to Wes and see how he would suggest doing it, but I have a feeling there's going to be some kind of feasibility study cost to that, and see if they're willing to go forward.
But this
with
is in
that.
conjunction with the fact that we've all, including town council, has recognized that the land use plan is due for an update. And
the land use plan, I think, is, if you look at the schedule on the front of it, we are in that phase of potentially looking to upgrade that. However, I know, in my opinion, and the way I wanted to go about doing it is the UDO holds a more of a weight to be updated before the land use plan does again.
And that's scheduled for the next 2 years already.
Potentially, yeah.
There's not a requirement any longer for updating land use plan, is there?
It's good practice.
Yeah, I know it's good practice.
Yeah,
I
it
think
is
at
a
one time there
requirement
was
to
a
have
requirement.
one.
And
Yeah,
even think about
160D.
it, if we have 3,500 plus whatever new homes, there's going to be a whole lot more opinions.
Well, that was mainly, and you're exactly right. That was based upon a survey that had very good response.
And the other thing I can do is while we are in the midst of getting ready to go through the UDO audit and update, have a conversation with council, maybe even squeeze it into next year's budget or how that might look like to maybe go ahead and update the land use plan as well. I'll have that discussion.
Yeah, as I'd say, maybe
Yeah.
at least those two sections, you
Yeah.
know, I mean, if cost is a factor, I wouldn't think it would be a overwhelming task, but one I think we need to do.
I bet council would be on board.
I mean,
It's just-
I sent this note to them and I didn't hear,
If there's a
Words from
cost
anybody.
element to it, we're going to have their blessing.
But there's so much change so quickly.
Oh, sure.
It's like we
And
have to
it's-
scramble to catch up.
Yep. And it's going to be
Well,
quicker.
Yeah.
Because within the past month and a half between the county and the town, I'm not including Sea Trail, you're looking at close to 6,000 to 7,000 new units within about a 5-mile radius.
And they're all,
Most of the county was like 904 and 17, right?
Yeah, across 17 adjacent to the side of
Oh,
McDonald's.
yeah,
And
they're
then,
clearing like crazy.
yeah,
over
there's
there.
about,
And there's already one going by the library already, not
But
that
Chick-fil-A's on its way.
the library, yeah, right, it's the
So-
library now, yeah.
904 coming this way is going to be busy.
it's already busy.
Yeah.
The
2
other
years
thing I would
ago-
like to address, if I know, go ahead, Tom, because I don't want to move you off of this if you're not done.
I was going to say, 2 years ago, I'd gone back and taken a look at some of what was happening around us. And at that point, Tamarind Woods, which is just off Georgetown and Ocean Isle, was approved for 2,500 single-family units, 560 multifamily units. Heather Glen and Little River, 1,100 units. Bridgewater on Route 9 and Little River, 970 single-family, almost 600 multifamily. New Haven on 179, 314 units. Kingfish Bay, I never really got a number as to what was planned there. And,
A million.
you know, of course, now we have added almost 1,000 units at this point, and you're talking about the potential of that doubling.
Yeah, one of them being
far
in
as what's
ours,
approved?
you know, if you take the three, potentially 3 approvals within my first year here from Sea Trail, not included into that, you look at the houses proposed in a Jaguars layer, and then the 2 developments that I know of that are in the county within 5 miles of here, like 6,000 to 7,000 new units, and that's just what's on the books of being approved.
Time is
preliminary.
important,
Yep, so I
It
can't
is.
imagine it,
It really is.
you know. that we
even though
won't.
we're playing catch-up, it's still, we can't lose the focus. Yep.
Where are we with the sidewalk? Are we making any progress on that?
The text amendment. I'll look back on it and see where we're at with it.
I mean, is there any reason why, I mean, we have a document that I think we were pretty happy with as a group.
Mhm.
Is there any reason why we just don't advertise it and vote on it, and move it on to council and get it into the UDO?
I can look at that. Yeah.
I would suggest we go that route.
Well, I know that we tabled fences because it was convoluted
Yeah.
Right.
and wasn't really serving a purpose. But sidewalks, I agree, Tom, was, I think we had generally agreed on the scope.
The last thing I had on my list, just for informational purposes, is that we will be starting next week the sustainable plant garden at the gazebo. We have a professional landscaper coming in and installing plants that are viewed as appropriate for coastal Carolina, native plants, sustainable. We know that sustainable is not sustainable without some help, so that the plan will include drip irrigation and so on and so forth. But this is a project funded through Sunset Vision with some help that we have received in the way of grant monies. So this will be a pretty significant contribution to the town, beautifying an area that probably draws more people than any other single area of this town. And our intent, again, was to use it as kind of an educational tool to show local homeowners what plants they might consider for their own yards.
You may not be aware of it, Chad, but the plan has been submitted by a landscape architect, and it's been provided to Dustin and to Lisa, our town clerk, and they have approved it.
Okay.
So, anybody else have anything?
I will say this, if you get any phone calls or emails in regard to the Board of Adjustment hearing next Wednesday, please forward them to me and ask them to contact me and me only.
And that will be an open meeting.
Yes.
Okay.
Is there something that's been published on that?
Mhm.
Oh, yeah, I had, when was that?
It's next
The
Wednesday.
agenda's not out yet, though.
No,
That's right.
it will come out today.
Oh, it'll come out today? Okay.
We've been hacked again. So,
I understand that.
yeah.
Anything else? Anyone? Motion to adjourn?
Second public comment period.
Oh, any comments?
I thought we had that. Beatty, you have any other comments?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being our first official post-COVID
Visitor. Yeah.
visitor, yes.
Okay, motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.